I'd like to officially call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion? Cynthia? Second? Okay, so moved. Keith, would you like to start us off with, oh wait, hold on, let me just get to the introductions first. Okay. All right, by the way, I want to thank Megan, the slides for this. While the information was provided, she really did enhance our presentations for these meetings. And I just wanted to make sure we thank her and also Amy Farfan for all the work they did helping put this together today. So thank you. And with that, I'd like to introduce the staff. Pastor Keith Herron, our senior minister, is here. Pastor Eric Moeller, back there, okay. Kelly Archer. Michelle Oninger. She was here. I'm not sure if she's in the room. Okay. Kit Norton. Kit was here too. And Amy Bush. There's Amy. Okay. John Gross he is here. Thank you. David Coons is our Saturday evening organist. David. Heather Hamilton, our new acting music director. Linda Klosterman, who's our preschool director. Pam Russo, business manager. Debbie Hagel, administrative assistant. Megan Leggetti, communications coordinator. And Amy Farfan, I know, is back here on the AV board. Charlie Singler is our maintenance manager. Dennis Schur is also with maintenance. And then Tequila Thomas is with maintenance. Does a wonderful job for us. Council members here are Mike Bone. Russ Cottle is here. Shannon Givens. Julie Hubble, who's home celebrating her husband's return. Bill Lowry is here. Cynthia Rossfeld. Paul Simons. Bill Linnenbringer. Mary Ellen Cox, who's helping taking minutes today. Shannon Givens. Barb Beck is going to help us with the microphones today, and myself. And the parliamentarian today is Bill Brinkhorst. And the first thing I want to do is approve the minutes from our annual meeting. Yeah, I was looking for that, and I didn't know if the slide missed. Okay, well, let's do that first, and then we can, maybe it's out of order. Okay, with that.
I thought you said something about a song, and I got really worried that you were asking me to come up and sing a song, so we'll bypass the song. Join me in prayer. We gather today so we might oversee the business of the church as we seek to know your will and act in ways that help us to serve our community and the world. Oh God, we are your servants, and this church is yours. We are your hands and feet, and so we come with humility, asking you to guide us in our words and deeds. Help us have clarity of thought and purity of heart and the willingness to do your will. We ask for courage to step forward toward your calling in our lives. As you have given so generously of yourself and have reached out to us to include us in your work, help us to think strategically how we might reach out to our realms of influence so your love is proclaimed. Amen.
Okay, now I'd like to approve the annual meeting minutes, which are in your packet. Ask for approval. Do I have a motion? Second? All those in favor? So moved. Now we can have the senior pastor's report.
Well, good morning, and it's obvious that this Sunday at 11 time seems to work. I'm glad that you're here and that we can all participate together. My report, the Senior Minister Report, is on page 6 in the Book of Reports. And then I have a couple of things I want to talk about. When I was preparing to come join you as Senior Minister in the fall of 2014, I knew two things would be challenges. I had two big ideas in my brain about where we were as a church. I realized that the staff would largely turn over in my tour of duty here, my time of being your senior minister. That just seemed obvious because of age and life cycles that our staff inhabited upon my arrival. Here we are 3.5 years later, and that has been occurring. You can see that in our staff. As we seek to fill these vacancies as they occur, we're paying attention to the needs of the future and not just backfilling these positions. You can see the difference our support staff has made in communications, in audiovisual, and from our pastor of missions in their focus on expanding ministries. And as we seek to fill these open positions that we have in music and worship and the pastor of congregational care, these positions will be filled sometime over the near horizon. We expect to extend that movement forward as we do so. Secondly, we had just you had just accepted this report of findings of the vision team in which we identified some 24 concerns we agreed we would adopt as a part of our future story. The implementation team grew out of that and continues to exist and to work on these projects. And there's an extensive report in our book that you can read from about where we have been and what we have done and where we need to go next. Identified as a part of our visioning process was the challenge of assessing our governance. Governance is a term to describe how the church uses to govern itself. You might think of it as an operating system. What is the operating system of our church? How do things happen? How decisions are made? A systems approach to leadership that moves us forward together as a unified community with openness. These are the values of that: openness, clarity, and wide participation. In the past year, a governance team was organized and a study was conducted to help us assess our current system, the way that we are currently doing our work. Miles Myers and a handful of others read key books widely available to help churches like us think strategically about how we do things and to diagnose our current system to ask if this is the system we believe will lead us forward to that future that we've named. By nature, this was a conceptual study. It's actually a tough topic to be picking up and carrying around. It has some philosophy to it. It has some up in the either world of how we are organized. But we were able to see that our core values are the mainframe that we are hoping to build a governance model around. And that would help us to act and to plan for ministry in the now and ministry in the future. These 5 core values. As you can see in my written report, I'm calling on the Church Council to receive the report from the governance team and further to identify systemic changes we need to address. Here's some questions that came to my mind that grow out of the report. How can we separate out the direction-setting function of the church from the day-to-day operations of the staff and other leaders? How can we best utilize a system that has adequate reporting and communications, yet also puts the ministry into the hands of those who are guided by meaningful purpose statements about their church? Thirdly, how can we widen our leadership platform to include more leaders from our younger adults? To put the governance team's recommendations to work, we will need to consider how our structure of governance needs to adapt for the future. We have 2 guiding documents, the Constitution and the bylaws. They're in place. They are largely sustaining documents that we may tweak here or there as needed. More importantly, we need to develop a more coherent way to push our core values forward toward ministry structures that will help us make them the center of our direction forward as a church. Do you know the 5 core values? If we had a pop quiz today, would you know what those 5 core values are? Let me see if I can do it. Let me see if I can pass the pop quiz. Worship, education, fellowship, missions, and evangelism. Those are our 5 core values. Yeah. I wish my mother were alive to know that I passed my own pop quiz. These are the 5 core values. The concern about governance is that we organize a system that puts those things forward. We're seeing the evidence of work in our missions area, that is actually happening, and we're hoping to propagate that energy and that effort in the other 4 concerns. I ask that you support our leaders in this effort. This idea of being disclosing, we are just disclosing as we can be right now, in honesty and clarity that these are our needs. Well, this is the direction that we're taking. It's based on where you said you wanted to go. We've named our direction, we've named it, we've studied it, guided by these 5 core values. Now let's choose the path that takes us in that direction, and let us do that together. I want to end my oral comments by telling you what I've told you before. These are 3 key things, 3 key ideas that if we were all to take these and internalize them into ourselves, we would find ourselves having a really happy experience in congregational life, that we could work and cooperate together in a way in which the ministry of the church would move forward. One is to adopt a regular habit of worship. If Christians would have a regular habit of worship, or if they would find a small group. We've started some small groups here this spring in the Lenten season. Or find a ministry, find a ministry that fits your calling. I recall the words of Fred Buechner, who said, "The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's great hunger meet." Those 3 things. Thank you for hearing my report.
So with that, what I wanted to do this year, if I haven't jumped too far, is add a new item. Excuse me. Last fall when I was at the annual meeting, and also when I was up here earlier this year when I showed a video, one of the things I realized is we don't celebrate success enough here at St. Lucas. We don't acknowledge all the work that our committees are doing on a regular basis. We're all passionate about making sure things get done, but if you think about how much work has been done and how hard people are working here, both committees, groups, staff, and even my fellow council members, you'd be amazed at what's going on behind the scenes. So what I thought I'd do is add a new element to this meeting, and maybe we can do this regularly going forward, is an item we're now going to call Celebrating St. Lucas. It actually started in your book where it's called Celebrating Committees, but the feedback I received from more than just committees was amazing, so I thought this would be a good time for everyone to see some of the details. So with that, our first group is Church and Ministry. And Church and Ministry this year hired 2 great new staff members, as we've discussed, Megan Ligeti and Amy Farfan, this past year. And they both enabled our big improvements in how we communicate inside the congregation and out into the community. This group also worked with Lana and Pam to transition to part-time at their request. And they led work to honor Pastor Carol on her retirement. They developed the opportunity for seminarian Kelly Archer to serve as pastoral intern, and now she's also with us as our pastoral assistant while the MCL committee continues their search. They helped quickly identify Heather Hamilton and arrange for her to serve as the interim music director. They also launched the search for a new music director. Our communications committee, they now have a solid social media presence with 50% growth in the past year, and we now have 491 active followers on Facebook. They also boosted our Facebook post for upcoming events that have reached 5,500 people in the community, and actually outside of our community too, from what I've heard. There's our new church website, which developed over the last year, and we now have had over 3,000 visitors to that website, and 815 people actively use our website each month. They have a communication strategy in place with Times ads, postcard mailings, social media campaigns, face-to-face community outreach opportunities. They enhanced our visual presentation and worship and website through partnership with the Audio-Visual Committee. And they implemented Trifold Announcements brochure, which optimized the e-blast, or they also optimized our e-blast for mobile phones and tablets, and they updated the design of our visitor. The Heritage Committee, which actually is defined here as St. Lucas is moving forward as a part of an ongoing life that becomes a part of the focus of concern for our Heritage Committee. New history is being made every day. Heritage also has records to update and new documents, photos, memorabilia to organize and preserve. Also, as people downsize, the Heritage Committee acquires older archival materials from their homes. Heritage researches answers to questions about St. Lucas history as they arise. Projects completed during the last year include updating the St. Lucas timeline, updating list of living veterans to be published in the Bulletin for Veterans Day, working with the Cemetery Board to update and refine the records of veterans in our cemeteries so we can accurately place veteran cemetery markers for Memorial Day. They have numerous displays throughout St. Lucas, including the cases in the Cruzy Heritage Center, and they've also hosted and continue to host many events. And that list is very long. I just didn't want to have it all on the slide. Memorial Committee, we went back a little bit just because we haven't made mention of these, but back in 2016, they purchased 8 side chairs for the conference table in the South Narthex. They donated to the capital campaign to replace HVAC as designated by the Farrell Simmons family. And they have a mixer to help upgrade the AV system was one of their purchases. They also donate to the Sunday school program, mission trip, and preschool by the Mitter family. Donation toward purchase of a new iMac computer for video recording of services. Now we have the Membership and Evangelism Committee. They welcomed 57 new members in 2017, which was a number I was actually surprised. I didn't realize there were that many last year. We already have 14 new members so far in 2018. And they're currently working with about 30 others who are considering membership. Missions. The mission team continues its work along with Pastor Eric to explore new mission opportunities to bring our congregation together in our call to be more missional. This work is moving toward the formation of a refreshed and ongoing mission and outreach team to ignite, energize, empower, and support the efforts of the congregation to be the hands and feet of Christ transforming the world. One of the missions is Loaves and Fishes. They work on freezer meals, the backpack program, Lindbergh lights the way for college students, community meals, and they're celebrating their first year in doing that. That group also provides meals to Winter Outreach, Assisi House, and Bridges of Hope. We have the Little Free Pantry and the Little Free Library. They have Bridge Bread Outlet and Purchase with a Purpose, and Lenten Bags of Love. There's another event coming up this year, which is a first for us, called What's Outdoors that we talked about earlier today. It's an interactive outreach event hosted by St. Lucas, hands-on educational opportunity for ages 4 to 14. In partnership with Unleashing Potential's Caroline Mission, the TASK, which is Team Activities for Special Kids, and KEEN, Kids Enjoy Exercise Now. Other missional projects include transformation of our parsonage to a missional asset to help a lower-income family establish residency in the neighborhood and the school district we enjoy, and begin a new journey towards self-sufficiency. And by the way, on this, we've heard from several of the principals, the social worker for Lindbergh School District, that in their minds, St. Lucas is a wonderful institution to have in the area, and they celebrate our help on a daily basis, especially with a lot of our backpack volunteers. Other mission projects are also an expansion of the social justice efforts, more focused and intentional adult educational programs to support our missional efforts. We also have the All-In Music Project and Tour, which we hear about, but we never see the details. So in addition to some of the other activities over the last year, Pastor Eric has done performances in Missouri and beyond using music for transformation in 5 churches, 7 traditional venues, and 6 ministries for the poor. The All-In Music Project and Tour also has their first CD, which was released in November as a way of using recorded music to inspire participation and positive change. The Preschool Board, which Dan will talk a little bit later, but we have a new director, Linda Klosterman, who is doing a fantastic job. We have increased enrollment, allowing for financial and program stability. And if any of you were here about a week or so ago when they did their annual program, I've never seen that many people in our social hall watching a music program from our preschool. It was amazing. I thought the floor was going to fall through. There were so many people in there. Oops, sorry. They've also renovated and added to the playground equipment. And they've contributed another $5,000 to the St. Lucas United Church of Christ Capital Campaign, bringing the total contribution from the preschool board to almost $35,000. Small groups. The small groups are facilitating the formation of opportunities to foster meaningful relationships and offer more spiritual experiences within our congregation. Follow-up materials are available each week on the website, video and sermon text from worship, and the Community Meal Small Group has over 20 participants already. 40 plus or minus. They do service events, which they cooked and served at a Lenten dinner. They held a work day at ECH, decorated the sanctuary for Christmas, and they also do Christmas caroling. They also have fun events, even though the others were fun too. Outdoor concert, drive-in movie, progressive dinner, game night, dinner out. We also have some younger groups that do similar things in our congregation. Our youth missions. This is the mission experience flyer for the trip that they're taking to Frakes, Kentucky. And that's exciting. That's coming up in July. And with that, we'll jump to church financial reports. And I know there's more, but I haven't. Yes, thank you. So here's Bill Lindenbringer with the financial reports.
Steve's got chicken pot pie up here. I guess every speaker's gonna be obligated to do that. All the financial reports are in page 18 through 50, I guess, in detail. I'm going to address primarily just the church's overall financial reports. Where's my, oh, I got to point that way, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. That's the Stewardship Committee, which I also view as the Finance Committee. I chair it, and Keith makes most meetings. Pam Russo, when we invite her to attend, particularly around the budget time and those types of things. First, yeah, that slides out of order, but first we're going to deal with the 2017 results. And you've all received the financial statements for that, but I want to just clarify a couple of things. One, and this will be the first of several reminders, in 2017, while this shows the bottom line, it includes $321,000 gift from the Ann Goddard estate. It's unrestricted, and the Stewardship Committee and the Council is looking on what kind of controls we have over that, as opposed to, I think if we do nothing, there's a lot of creative people in this church, and we will have spent it over a year or two. So I view that as one obligation to you to monitor that and make sure that it's budgeted for any expenditures out of that, and also that it is not just used for funding the negative operations, negative position, cash position. This is the 2018. something's wrong there. This is the first quarter of 2018, and you can see there we're behind. General fund cash includes the Ann Goddard Estate cash. In October, not October, in this year, March or April, we invested $200,000 of that in CDs so that we at least get the CD rate is much higher than just leaving it idle. But you can see in as of 3/31/18, we are negative cash from operations, general fund operations. We have a lot of cash in various funds, but none of it can be used other than for what the endowment funds and various other programs. Now, if we look at the revenue, first quarter alone, revenue was down $44,000 in first quarter versus first quarter 17. Now, a little bit of that was explained by the Easter holidays being split in 2018. And also, we continue to believe that the very solid contributions to the Cool, Safe, and Dry campaign may have bled some dollars off of the general fund giving. Now let's take a look at the expense side. Expenses were up. The clergy staff is up, but due to Pastor Carroll retiring, which is a savings, and largely offset by having a full quarter of Pastor Eric. Total staff down 7,000 with Pam Russo becoming part-time and Alana retiring. The electric and gas expenses were up about 6,000, but close, very close to budget, because most of the work that we've now have been underway for the last 6 months or so is working. The 2007 budget was flat from the 2016. First quarter 2018 revenues were down 40 and expenses were down 25 compared to the 2017 budget. Now, a word about the Ann Goddard Estate gift. Perhaps many of you never met Ann Goddard, but she was a wonderful lady. Most of her career was in various UCC churches, the last part being here, although the last few years she was unable to really attend in person. The first gift that I am aware of Ann Goddard was by our first, when we expanded the first construction project, capital campaign. And I met with her because she was the corporate secretary paralegal for the Southwestern Bell AT&T Now board. So she worked with all the senior executives of St. Louis, very personable, and she took care of her mother. Her mother lived with her for a long time. And we're very pleased. Some of you may have seen some of the other gifts to the zoo and et cetera. But Ann Goddard helped this congregation out tremendously. The stewardship committee tells me that before that gift, which came in 2017, November, that everybody was worried about the cash position, and it's a noticeable sigh of relief. And I think that's great. We ought to use our cash in the best reasons possible. I just think we need to follow it a little more closely, budget those items that we think we're going to need, and hopefully we won't have the negative balance from operations that we have to follow that. Because if that happens, we're not spending it for any purpose other than making up for shortfalls. And I'm going to make sure that happens. Here's the $200,000 that we invested in BEMO Harris, former Southwest Bank. And next is whoops. Here's another very significant that was received in 2017, and it's restricted. In effect, it's an endowment. Original gift of $200,000. At the end of 2017, another $16,000 when they wound up the estate. Income through March 2018 was about $1,000. And we have no designated expenditures as of the year end. There is a plan. I'm not remembering exactly, but it will go for children's programs. Now, the general fund bottom line, this is broken out in the next 3 slides so you can see it hopefully. In 2017, the calendar year 2017, and I watched this from a distance really because I wasn't on the council, wasn't on the stewardship committee at that point. The congregation and your council partly was able to adjust expenses to match a portion of the reduced revenue. And that's what we do in the business world. If our revenues are down, we cut expenses and institute programs to improve the revenue flow. Second item, the 2019 budget process will be critical to bring expenses in balance with expected revenues. Tapping the unrestricted Goddard Fund should be used only for money set forth in the budget for any new programs. And finally, whoops. And this is Bill Lindenbringer speaking as personally, I strongly recommend that the resources of this fund, the Ann Goddard Fund, not be used for unbudgeted expenses or for the general operations of the church. Now let's take a look. At the capital campaign status. The capital campaign has been very ably chaired by Don Lang, and I saw Don this morning in the social hall. I don't know if there he is back. Stand up, Don. People want to know who you are. And the committee has been, over the past, what has it been, 3 years, I guess, or we're starting our third year. Bill Bollinger, Joan Gildehouse, Noel Knobloch, myself, Bill Kottner, Mary James, Carl Scheit, and Carol Stelmach. Now, just to remind you of our scope and timing, total program was to be $750,000. The sanctuary, year one was funded, and I believe it's totally completed now. Parking lot and repair and replacement is this year, wrapping up this year. And the other building, education building at air conditioning and heating. And I think the preschool for the security, it was most important to be done as we operate a preschool. And you saw earlier the total commitment of the preschool to the church, and I believe the total's $35,000, wasn't it? I think the whole amount. But we've got a few work to be done, a little work to be done yet. We've had 576,000 of donations through April 4th. And Don, if I misrepresented any of this, just stand up and yell. Phase 1 was totally funded. Phase 2 is 100% funded. Phase 3 projects are 85% funded. We received a grant from the Rock Foundation of $10,000 and a loan of $100,000, and that's has to be paid back. The main trustee of the Rod Foundation is changing their scope. But Bob Pining, who former Ameren CFO, chaired that Rod Foundation for many years, actually. Helped us in the first construction project. Unfortunately, he passed away, and but we still have good contact with the Rod Foundation people, and I guess it's Commerce Bank. But we got a little bit of work to do yet. Oops. Now, finally, a big thank you for the congregation members, both here and those that are absent. Christy and I are relatively new members. We've only been here 25 years, but every point in time when this church has needed financial resources, some people, and including many people, have stood up and contributed. We're kind of at a flex point now, in the sense we have a lot more going on in this church. And Steve, I thought that slide was really, really good, slide presentation. But we got to remember all these things that we do. Some of those items that were done did not come out of the church budget, but were individually funded. So please remember all of the things we support, all those things that Steve showed you earlier, are gifts to the church, the community, and to God. And thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Now, do I take questions now? Yeah. Incidentally, if there are any questions, I will take them now on any of it, and also the slide presentations will be available. Let's have if anybody wants it, a list in the back of the church. Just write your name down, and I'll see that Pam gets the copies of the slide. Now, also, I'll take any questions for the various other financial reports, but they're pretty well spelled out in the detail, the cemetery and preschool and all that. So, any questions? Yeah, did somebody raise their hand there? No, she just turned and paid. Okay, well, thank you very much. What that means, Steve, is every one of these people have just pledged another $1,000. Oh, yeah, right, here. Oh, wait a minute, that's, yeah, I got mine down there. Yeah, oh, okay.
Is there a representative here from the cemetery board to discuss financial reports? Okay, Ken? Don't forget the pot pie.
That's okay. Yeah. Good morning. Our financial secretary was not able to be here today. There is some cemetery board committee members in the audience, and we found that out, and we drew straws, and guess what? I got that little one. But no, all kidding aside, I am very, very happy just to come up here for just a few minutes just to tell you that the cemetery is in fine financial shape. As you can see, our page 28, that was our ending balance for our balance sheet at the end of December. Our revenues are on page 30, and our first quarter is on page 43. The cash right now position that we have is in excellent shape. Our perpetual care and our general fund is very, very strong. But what I would like to speak just a few minutes today about is what has happened to the cemetery board in the last year and a half. For such a long time at this church, there has been some very, very dedicated members and committee people that have worked on the cemetery board. The continuity with that board has been excellent. But what has happened in the last year and a half is that the cemetery committee has turned over. And before that, the committee members, most of them were retired individuals. At the present time, most of the individuals on the committee have full-time jobs. And as we're all learning, the cemetery is a full-time job by itself. So we want to ask the church's patience in our turnover in our committee. We want to ask that you work with us as we learn and transition into our new positions. And I'm also here today to thank, I see them in the audience, two people that has really, really helped us out. The first one is Donovan Larson. He has done a great job with getting the records and the important things that we need to run the cemetery on a day-to-day basis. And there is one other gentleman here that has done a yeoman's job for us. It is Jerry Wiesahan. And without him, the cemetery would not be running as it is today. We, as I have said, we are all kind of full-time folks now. And even the people that are retired, they have part-time jobs on our committee. So we're not able to be here 24/7 in the cemetery. We're not able to be here during the week. So Jerry has patiently and diligently filled in for us. And anytime there's a crisis in this cemetery, Jerry has been there. And as a committee member, and I know my fellow committee folks would just like to thank him very much. And at this time, I'll take any kind of questions that you may have. But again, we appreciate your patience with the turnover, and we appreciate that this church has wonderful members that are willing to help. There's no questions. Just again, thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we've got the preschool report. Stan, would you like to come forward? Oh, and by the way, I have another email too from Carol Stelmach this morning on the College Kickstart program. Another note from Lindbergh School District that just said, "We love St. Lucas," and about 5 exclamation points afterward.
Good morning. If you had a chance to review the financial reports for the preschool, you'll see that the preschool is alive, well, and actually very healthy. We have great enrollment this past year, 155 bodies, I believe, but we really do the calculation based on what we call sessions. Some of those students or some of those children are full-time, some are half-day. And what we really do is count sessions, and sessions generate money. So, but we've been very healthy this year. Our enrollment for next year shows the possibility of even some more growth. We're getting to where we're going to be, I think, full. We're very close to that this year. We have a new director this year, a member of the church, Linda Klosterman. In a previous life, I was a school superintendent, and I was a college professor who trained new administrators and mentored them. Linda's the best I've seen, I will tell you. She far exceeded my expectations. In past times, I spent a lot of time down at the preschool helping with problems, giving advice. This year, I was an appendage. I didn't have very much to do. She just does a great job. Some things that we did this year, we contributed another $5,000 to the capital campaign. We're going to, if the budget allows it, we will do that for another 3 years. So we're going to try to be good citizens and good members of the church. Another thing that we've done, and we worked very hard, is to make sure that instruction in Christian faith is included in our curriculum. Some of you may not know, a large percentage of our kids who attend the preschool are from the Catholic churches. So we, I think, match up really well with the idea of presenting a Christian instruction that allows everybody to attend. We've updated the playground this year, made some repairs, added some new things. We've just had a really, really good, successful year. I've been really very happy with it. I've been very proud of it. I'd like to thank Linda Klosterman, especially the preschool teachers and the assistants for all they've done this year. I'd like to thank the congregation of St. Lucas Church for its continued support, and we ask to be included in your prayers. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we have the diversity team report. I think Adam Rustage is here today. Do you need this?
Okay, good morning. My name is Adam Rustage, and I am currently the head of the diversity team. We've been around for a little over a year. The group started in April of 2017. And lately, we've been trying to get the word out better about what we're up to. And what that has been is, over the last 3 months, we've been doing one-on-one interviews with the congregation under the subject of diversity, and whatever that means to that particular person. So we're just trying to understand what people, how they view diversity within the church, or different things, or just ideas. It's really meant to be just a conversation. We start it, and we're here to listen. We're not here to just listen. That's what we're trying to do, is listen to the congregation, and we felt the best way to do that was to have one-on-one conversations. So, like I said, we've had over 60 conversations, and we're hoping to do over 100. So we would encourage anyone in the congregation to come and seek us out. For the most part, we've been seeking people out to have these conversations. We've had a handful of people that have reached out to us, but most of them have been us going to them. And so, we would just encourage you to come out and just come, and we'll sit down with you, have some coffee, talk for maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes. It doesn't take very long. And some of these conversations have been all over. I mean, I've learned quite a few things. They've been economics, LGBTQ, accessibility, the worship experience, childcare, gender, cliques within the church. I've heard from multiple people. Race. I mean, just across the board. It's not been about one specific thing. This group is not about one specific thing. It's meant to be diversity across the board. So that's what we're going to be up to in the near future, is continuing to have these one-on-one conversations. It's currently a committee of 9, and I'm going to go ahead and ask if you're on the the diversity team, if I say your name, please stand up. Barb Smith, Cynthia Rosfeld, Bill Biedenstein, Bill Brinkhorst, Linda Hartman, Mary James, Mary Morgan, Miles Meyer, and myself. So if any of you would be interested in having a conversation with us, please seek one of us out, and we'll be happy to set something up. Do I have any questions? Okay, thank you.
And while it's not in your agenda in your book, we also have a report from the implementation team. Pat?
Very briefly, I would like to share I'm a member of the implementation team, and you'll see that the report that we put in is on page 13 of the booklet. We're excited about where we've been and where we're going. We're looking for some members who might want to join us as part of our ongoing work as part of the implementation team. And we'd certainly look for any kind of questions or any kind of suggestions that you might have. I see Mary Morgan, Sue Simmons, Beth Elmore, Pastor Keith. So we would be really happy to talk with you if you have something you'd like to share with us. Thank you.
Okay, and on that note, I want to go back to what Ken Fay had discussed earlier with regard to having a full-time job and being on committees and council. And as we have been meeting on council this year, we've been talking a lot about governance and ministry, but also trying to figure out what the core purpose, what the core business model of council is. And when you start thinking about all the things that council has become, I jokingly would say sometimes it's become the committee that volunteers for everything. And when you think about the workload that we're putting on people that are on council, including council president, there's some things you could think about if these people are retired and they have a lot of free time, but if you're asking for volunteers, we're continuing to try to re-energize the church, you're going to have people that also have a full-time job. And to try to manage your full-time job and manage being on council, it's becoming challenging. So one of the things we looked at is we looked at all the activities the council does. We started thinking about, are there things we could have someone else do so that we could focus on our core purpose that's outlined in the bylaws and constitution, especially with regard to council, having all the committees reporting to council and council trying to make sure things are in the proper place as we go throughout the year. So one of the areas we looked at And it's funny, it wasn't really a committee, and it wasn't really the council. In fact, I'm going to say thank you to Pat Stevens, because she has basically been our special events chairperson for council for several years, which meant that Pat actually put together a lot of the events we have herself. And so we thought, if there's a way we could actually form a new committee that takes over some of these events, and especially if we've got some people with new ideas, new energy, just some things to think about even with existing events or maybe some new events. We've got a lot of creative people that are in our congregation, and maybe we can find some new volunteers that would like to take this on. So this committee over time has been involved with Blessing of the Pets, the Living Nativity, Ice Cream Social, the Grants Farm Outing, and the Easter Egg Hunt. And as you'll notice, which we did receive a couple of comments, but we were unable to hold the Easter Egg Hunt this year. And the main thing was for lack of volunteers, and also for lack of someone who could actually organize it. Again, if you think about the workload of the council members. And I want to thank Pat again for the past, because she did manage that event, and she did put together quite a book for someone to take it over. But it's almost an event that, with council transition, you really start the discussions in September, October, and in the fall before the spring. So Pat has this book, so even that has a lot of ideas already, and it's really easy to take over. We're just looking for some help. And we also have the first Saturday in June next year penciled in for Grants Farm. Again, we didn't have the Grants Farm event this year. Although some of that was from an attendance standpoint. We were looking for something fresh. It wasn't really from a management standpoint, but we were just trying to see if there's something else somebody could come up with for us to do as a congregation. And with that, I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer already for the Special Events Committee, but send me an email. My email's on the website if you are interested. I have heard from some people that would already like to be on the Easter egg hunt group, so that's great. Hopefully we can put you all together then if people start replying that would like to help out. And if you think of others in the congregation that may not be here today, that'd be great. So with that, we'd like to go to the next section of our agenda, which is input from the congregation. And we'd also like to point out that we have two people that will have microphones, and the microphone will be brought to you in your seat. Please wait to talk until you have the microphone so that everyone can hear you, and also help us out with stating your name. And I'm asked for some spelling for Pat and Mary Ellen to make sure we document it, because you will be not only digitally recorded, but we need to make sure we take proper minutes. We'd also ask that if you could please be brief, and we'd like to try to see if we could keep your time within the 2-minute time frame per person. So with that, we'd like to open up for any comments, questions.
Is it on? Yes. My name is Bob Piper, and I think we ask questions of new members coming in why they picked this church to join here. My question is, are we asking people who are leaving this church, why are they leaving?
That'd be a good question for membership evangelism. Do we do any kind of exit interview? Do not. Okay, do not. We can write that down, though, as an idea. I appreciate the comment.
It is something that membership and evangelism is working toward, although our efforts right now are bringing in new members and looking and contacting people who are visiting us, and the numbers have increased over the past few months. That's something that we will talk about and have been talking about during our meetings, and we will continue to do so. If anyone has suggestions or would like to perhaps share some of their ideas with membership and evangelism, we would certainly look to have them join us at a meeting or contact one of us. Does that do it?
Next.
I'm Cynthia Rosfeld. I'm on the Membership and Evangelism Committee. We have discussed in our meetings kind of trying to get the congregation, when they're in services, if they're suddenly missing someone for a couple weeks that usually sits in their pew, maybe bring that to our attention. Because when people stop coming to church, they don't like call the office and say, we're quitting the church. They just don't come back to the church. So if we would kind of notice, if suddenly you haven't seen somebody for a few weeks, I think if you bring it to our attention, that would be good. Oh, right. Or if someone is, if they've been your friend and then suddenly they're not there anymore, it'd be nice if you could give them a call.
Perfect.
Thanks.
What is the total membership of St. Lucas Church?
Same committee. That's a hard one to put, because one of the things we talk about membership, and we've actually asked this, Bill Lindenbringer brought this up during stewardship, it's hard to define when you have people that are sitting in pews, people that are still members but may not be present, including people, there's quite a group over at Friendship Village that have quite a Bible study group that goes on. So it's always hard to define, and then you have people that even, kids that are in college, what are they doing while they're in college? Going to St. Lucas, are they still members? So a lot of it, you look at the directory as a way to look at members, but it's really hard to put an actual number to it.
What is the mailing then to members? Is there a count?
Yeah, the office does have the addresses that they typically put in the directory. Sue, you might have a good answer to that.
When we send a mailing out to all addresses, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 people.
Right.
In terms of individual letters that go.
Yep. Okay. Next.
I'm Gloria Gottschalk, and I have a concern. There seems to be a trend in the confirmation classes being so small this year. Is this a trend with the related, I guess, to the population? But it's kind of frightening when we have only 7 in the confirmation class. I mean, it seems like our church is getting older. Is there an increase in the number of students from this year, starting in September?
Amy Berg might have.
Okay, to answer your question, so this year was a small class. We had 7 kids. And if you notice the year before, we had 25. And if you notice the year before that, we had 12. And before that, we had 18. So the years ebb and flow. The next year is going to be small. And then the following year, we're going to have another class of 20, 25, maybe 30 kids. Right now, our group of 6th graders is big, and it might be growing. And so it ebbs and flows with the age of kids that we have in the church, just like why we have a few kindergartners right now, but we have a lot of 3rd graders. So just how it is with our membership.
I think the key to confirmation, too, because I worked with Kid on this a few years ago, is while we may have a class of 25 or even 30, it's how many stay after they finish confirmation. A lot of parents who aren't members send their kids here to get confirmed, and then the kids don't come anymore. So I think, as we've talked about, the key to confirmation is how many are retained after the session is over, especially the families that are still members and continue to bring their kids to St. Lucas. And that's a big focus that Kid continues to work on. And I think with these 7, they actually had a meeting the other night talking about the next step now that they're members.
Jackie Zeidiger, and I served on the committee where we did check the membership. This was under Dressel many years ago, and just as a suggestion, we used the attendance pads, and if we found somebody had been not attending, because you do keep records in the computer of these people, at least they did back then. And so if someone missed for 3 times, then one of the members of the committee would call. So we would meet once a month, and we would go over the list and assign different ones, and we always checked on those who had missed, and even those who told us, then we brought it back to the committee to report to the church why people had left. So that's just a suggestion. Okay, the main reason I'm getting up is we're doing a wonderful job with missions and all these different things, and I'm sure it's taking money. And I didn't see, looking over all the budgets, anywhere where money was set aside for all of these missions that we're doing. So I'm curious as to who's paying for it, how the money is coming forth to take care of the dinners and all the other different things that we're doing. I know about the backpack program because I know where some of that money came from, but where is all the other money coming from? Thank you.
You want it?
That's a very good question. And that was my reference earlier, that a lot of the new projects, backpack and everything else, is being funded by individuals, which to my way of thinking, we need to capture that, particularly if we want sustaining programs in that neighborhood. So we'll be taking a look at it this year. I personally think that anything that carries the church's name and reputation should find its way into the budget. If individuals want to fund the whole budget item for it, that's fine. But we need to keep track of what's being done in the name of our church.
Hello.
Sue Simmons.
Hey, on that topic, I sit on the stewardship committee, and new for 2018 is that the Loaves and Fishes ministry in particular was funded within the general fund for 2018. Up until 2017, it was funded by individual designated gifts to Loaves and Fishes. But in the spirit of what Bill just mentioned, so that we can do mission as a congregation as a whole, we're encouraging folks to recognize that when you give to the general fund, you are giving to the mission of the church, not just to the electric bill. And so as a first step in that direction for 2018, Loaves and Fishes was funded at $15,000 for this year. And that was an estimate of the cost of the community meals and the backpack program for 2018.
Hi, I'm Diane Butler, and I just wanted to ask, Caring Ministry has been functioning for quite a while, and I don't hear anybody thanking them. I just wanted to say thank you to all of those who are visiting shut-ins, taking flowers, and also I have to put in a plug for Pershaw. So I just wanted to say that we appreciate your support, and thank you very much.
My name's Adam Rustage, and I just had a question about the surveys that we've been doing recently as far as worship times, how that might play out over the next handful of months. Is there any idea of the plan of that, how that process is going to play out?
So while they're still collecting the information, and from what I've heard, we had over 300 responses. So that was great, both through email and in writing. They're actually being tallied since there were questions that were easy to answer. We have tallies, including times, type, et cetera. And then there's also the other section that people wrote additional comments in, so we're documenting all of that. Eric's still putting all that together. And the next step is we're going to have meeting to start going over the information and then try to understand where to take it from there. We'll have a discussion at council. Eric, I don't know if you want to add anything else, but we're actively looking at it.
There we are. No, I think you pretty well summed it up, Steve. Yeah, we're still tabulating all the information, and we'll get it together and see what it says and let you all know as soon as we have anything. So.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, with that, I'd like to first thank you all for attending today. We have a pretty big audience for a semi-annual meeting, so I appreciate that. Hope we're all working as well as you expect we are. I'd like to thank my fellow council members. I know they're all putting in a lot of hard work this year. I'd also just like to mention, we have currently 11 members on council, and in the bylaws, it says 15 is the number right now. But we will also have people coming off council this fall, so if you can think about others now that we could start discussing over the next 6 months for coming onto council in the fall, I'm going to appreciate some help with that. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay. All those in favor? Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Lord's I can't believe I almost did. After I just talked about this before. Please stand and help me recite the Lord's Prayer.